Thank you. So hey, everyone. I think I know everyone, but I always introduce myself. Rosa Maimi, Director of Engagement and Membership. Good to see everybody. We were commenting, some of us early on, that it's summer, so folks are on vacation in the field. We do, as you know, we're recording this and we do get feedback based on the recordings from section leaders. So hello to all of you who are looking at this delayed. We do have a lot to talk about today, but I see that Janice has joined us. I want to see if you want to say a few words before we get going.
Sure. Thank you, Rosa. I just want to say hello to everybody. Sometimes I get to come on these calls, sometimes I don't, but today I had a little break in my schedule, so I thought I'd dial in and just see how everyone's doing. We're working hard here. There's lots going on. We are in the midst. I see John Selker's on the call. We're in the midst of the water SciCon meeting in St. Paul. And a meetings committee meeting is happening out there concurrently. So so many things are happening and changing at AGU. And I know this is getting to be another peak time for your work on your members, your section members' behalf, and on all of our behalfs. So I want to thank you all for that. As we lead up to our annual meeting, I know there's a lot of demands being placed on you and a lot of information you need. So just let us know what we can do to help make your lives easier, and we'll do our best to deliver on that. And with that, I'll turn it back to our awesome staff. So thank you. And I'm always here. Uh, you have a great team here supporting you. But in addition, if you want to reach out to me, please feel free to do so. I'm always here for all of you. Thanks.
Thank you, Janice. I appreciate it. Amber, do you want to jump in for a couple of minutes?
Sure. Thanks, Rosa. Hi, everybody. Happy summer. For those who are joining us live, thanks so much. And for everybody who's watching us after the fact, thank you for watching. But just wanted to say hello. It's nice to see everybody. Thank you for everything that you're continuing to do. We just appreciate the partnership so much. So I will keep my comments brief because, as usual, we have a lot to cover. So, Rosa, I will send it over to you.
Sounds great. Thanks so much. Why don't we go over the agenda, and then I've got a couple of housekeeping things. So we're going to go over some section event planning milestones. This has to do with AGU 24. We'll probably talk about this every of these monthly meetings just to make sure everyone's level set on what you need to contribute to make this a smooth process. We're going to hear from our advocacy group about community-driven science congressional Hill Day visit. We're going to have Dana, who is our elected Student Early Career Council member, talk about the engagement survey that we talked about last month. So this is a follow-up. And then we've got Matt here, who's going to talk about building community in AGU publications and sections. I do want to mention, I'm going to do this every call. I want folks to know what the email address is. Josh, if you can put it in the chat. If you need anything on section leader help, go here, agu-sectionhelp@agu.org. Josh, Greg, me, and others will help you get you the right information, get you to the right person, get you connected to each other, whatever you need. So just remember that. You can always get in touch with us other ways too. I know that you have other doors at AGU, but we want to make sure you're aware of that one to maybe make it a little more streamlined and easier. The other thing I wanted to mention, this is really housekeeping and I can't find it. Oh, here we go. So AGU is closed next week, Thursday and Friday. So those of you who do newsletters around this time, you need to submit them on Monday, July 1st at 4 p.m. in order for them to get distributed the following Monday. So a little bit of an early holiday schedule around that. All right, so why don't we go to the next topic that I'll kick off. And I will mention we've got Suzanne Davidson here from the meetings team, but she's also, as Janice mentioned, there's another meeting going on at the same time, so we'll have her for a few minutes. We'll pause for a little bit to get questions answered by her as we go through the milestones. And Josh, of course, our section support coordinator. Why don't we go ahead and actually look at the documents? So we've got a document, by the way. You all are going to get this recording and all the slides probably tomorrow or later today or Monday. So you'll have this. So let me go through the first item, then I'll throw it to Josh. So you all know May 31st was the deadline to submit AGU's 24 section event information. Congratulations. I think this is the first time that nearly everybody gave us information. We didn't have to chase you too hard. Though I know Josh has sent a lot of emails, so thanks for engaging with him. And that means this portion is done. Can't make any more edits, can't make any more changes because we don't want to have any errors. This has now gone on in the process with the meetings team in terms of making sure that we can move forward. And Suzanne can speak to this, but picking space, making sure that we get to the next steps that we'll talk about here. And you all know that the abstracts have opened. Submission timing has opened. That was June 12th. But Josh, why don't you go through the rest of this, and then we'll pause and see if you all have questions for the meetings team while we have them here for a few minutes.
Yeah, okay. So July 22nd is when when we started our phase 2, and that's when we start gathering details for from sections for their AV pricing and menus from hotels. We will need your AV requirements for section gatherings and receptions. And we will need AV and food and beverage requirements for the one section gathering luncheon that we're having and the student early career events. We will send you each, we will send each section hosting these events, the details regarding pricing for AV and the menus information shortly after, or coming up shortly. And then on July 26th, that is the deadline for sections to provide the list of members who are receiving AGU 24 complimentary tickets and registration. And that is the template that I sent you last week to fill out. So please have that to me by July 26th. And then July 31st is the abstract submission closes. And then in mid-August, AGU 24 registration and housing opens. And then on August 16th, that is your deadline to get your requirements for AV and food and beverage to me. And then after this date, you will not be able to make changes to those requirements. And then November 6th, AGU 24 early bird registration closes. It's also the last day to become a member to register at member rates. And it's the last day to purchase tickets for ticketed events at AGU 24. And then November 11th is the last day for attendees to book housing. The executive office will be in touch with council members regarding their housing. And then in early December is the iPoster and the PowerPoint presentation upload deadline. And then that's all we have for the milestones.
Suzanne, is there anything you wanted to amplify here, or do we have questions on this while we have Suzanne here?
Yeah, I think just one of the things around these July dates, thank you again for everybody getting in your events. We're now at that phase of assigning the space. So our partner, our Merritt's partner, they help us with all the space assignments, and we have 3 hotels. We have 3 hotels that we're placing events at, and then we also have the convention center. And so once they assign this space, then they're going to build out packages for like the AV and the F&B. They're able to negotiate prices better, knowing which venue the event's going to be hosted. And that's going to help Josh and Greg work with you better on your AV requirements and your food and beverage, to also make sure you're within your budget. Once we see where everybody's placed, we have more negotiating power to work with the different venues. So July will be a busy month, and as well as August. And it's also important because that we have all like your requirements for the registration, because we are actually in the process of programming. So like all your ticketed events are now being programmed in the registration tool. And that's why we're asking, like, for no more changes, because we're touching multiple vendors at this stage. And we're trying to make this a smooth experience for everyone, and also avoid any errors in the process. We'll be looking at everything very closely to make sure that there's no errors. But again, when we have changes, that sometimes does happen. So, but we appreciate everybody's support, and we're here to help you with any of your programs.
Thanks, Suzanne. And I want to mention one other thing, and maybe you can look at the comment from Rachel I mentioned. In the next month's meeting, also Lauren Parr is going to join us to talk further. Some of you may have heard this discussion in other prior meetings about transparency around kind of large events, right? Like AGU 24. So we'll have an opportunity to talk about that and get questions answered around that generally next month. So I just wanted to preview that.
Yeah, and to Rachel, and to your question on the AV, I think, and Rosa, you guys can, there's certain, I think you work with the sections on, your AV quotes and everything. That I think needs to come from Rosa's team on as far as your budget. I know AV is expensive, and that's kind of why we're looking at the full big picture to help Rose's team and trying to, when we look at events like, oh, we're going to put you in this room, but we're going to use it multiple times, this AV equipment multiple times. So, that's a way we can reduce your cost for AV. We've done that across for other programs where if, they're requiring the same AV, that, we split the costs with other programs to help reduce that. So there is that kind of negotiating and seeing the full big picture, so that we can kind of look at where we are and helping you meet your budget, because we know but still have the good experience for your meeting.
Yeah, thanks for that, Suzanne. And and I hadn't had a chance to read it through, but yes. And to your point, I mean, I guess we're trying to leverage, right, the power of kind of all of the consolidated needs, so that there's negotiating power to maybe bring down the costs or find other ways to do things. So I would just say, keep working with the team as we get to those planning pieces. We mentioned, I forget the date already, but there's a date on the slide about AV that's coming up, I think in July. So there's an opportunity to talk there as well. Okay, let's see what else is on the. All right, and I see Danny, thank you for your notes. Anything else on this topic? All right, like I said, monthly, we're going to have some version of AGU 24 topic with us in the meetings team, meaning AEM, the meetings team, each of these meetings. So we'll talk more next month on this.
Well, I put a little question in the chat.
Oh, you did? I missed it.
Yeah, and it's really either way is fine with me. I just want to know. So here I'm at this meeting, and people are coming up to me, hey, can we organize this? Can we organize that? I was like, well, I think we might be able to do something. I want to know, do you want, if there is a group that wants to do something, it's late breaking, we can just say, like, the AG team is fully occupied, they've got their plans in place and they're doing their thing, and we've got our reservations fixed. Let's not bother them. Or should we let you know if there's a need, and then let you guys tell us whether or not it's something that wants to be addressed?
What? It looks like Suzanne and I were going to go at the same time. You would
Go ahead, Rosa.
Okay, fine. Suzanne and I talk nearly every day now, so I'm guessing we have the same answer. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I think always make the request, right? I mean, we can talk about where it fits in. I know that there's some auxiliary processes, Suzanne, that either deal with things outside of the usual section event planning or even outside of the meeting itself. I mean, is that, Suzanne, what you were thinking as well?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
we, this first phase was for all the sections and internal departments to get their requests in for events, so that we can give you the best space, for your event. And then we open our ancillary site in August, where anybody who's wanting additional, is like, oh, I really want to have this, reception, or I want to do a, small workshop or something on Sunday. They can submit like a request through the ancillaries program. And that's an opportunity for them, where they can, get a space for the week. There is a fee for that though, with the ancillaries. And that's also the ancillaries, they work with the hotels and the vendors directly on any logistics as well as any payments. So AG is not involved in any of the logistics or the final billing for that.
And if I could add, John, you and I've had this conversation in general, but for the others on the call, it's important for AGU to understand what is happening overall. I mean, we're not going to know about every time a group of you want to meet for coffee or something, but because of liability issues, because of our responsibility to people who've registered for the meeting and are attending, because of Safe AGU issues, it's really helpful to us, to all of us, I think, to be aware of the gatherings, where people are going to be, and again, if 10 people decide to go to Five Guys, obviously that's outside the scope, but as much as we can, please try to keep us informed of what you're planning, so that we can make sure that it's part of our overall scheme. If it's public, we want people to know about it. We want it in our program. We want it in the app. And then there's the whole legal framework that we're responsible for. So I just would encourage you to consult with our team. Maybe there's a million options that I don't even know about, but at least let us know so that we can be as helpful as you all need while maintaining, overall umbrella for the organization.
Thanks, Janice. Danny,
Yeah.
you've got your hand up, and Suzanne, I direct you to the question from Dwight next about the Smithsonian. So Danny, go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate Janice, what you just said. And I just wanted to make sure I understand, because I've never really had to, until John raised this question, and I started collaborating with AGU from the informatics perspective and open science leadership. If there are events, as John's describing, and you're directing us to this ancillary programs, which I'm wondering if you could just give a little clarity there on that is a group that we reach out to, and then they work directly with the vendors on our events. I didn't quite catch the process.
Yeah, well, go ahead. There's an online form, but go ahead, Suzanne.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Okay.
have an online form that if anybody, I'll use NASA as an example. NASA sometimes has, receptions or,
Mhm.
or colleges and universities, have like a small reception that they're wanting to do with, several people that are coming to the meeting. And so they would submit that, we're wanting to host an event at AGU on Monday night at 6 p.m. and they say for 100 people. And, basically we want it reception style. And so we find the space for them. There's a fee for that. for the, admin and also renting the space. And then once we assign the space, then those organizers would work directly with the venue on any of like your AV requirements, any of your food and beverage requirements. You would set
I
up a
see.
direct bill. It's just an opportunity. We get a lot of requests through the week of the meeting,
Sure.
like, hey, I just want to meet up with, a group of, colleagues, and, we're always trying to find them space. This form allows us to assign space ahead of time. We do have meeting rooms, that are first come, first served, that, you can sign up on site, but they're just set up like conference style, maxed out. But the ancillary form is for any outside organizations to come in and, use the space that we have contracted. Because hotels will charge you a large fee for renting the space, and also require a food and beverage minimum. Going
Yeah.
through the ancillary site, you do not have that.
And I can ask
Okay.
Josh in our next communications to make sure that link is somewhere, in
That-
either yeah.
That
Yeah.
would be great. Thank you so much for that. And I assume that, not to belabor this, but I assume that like all the size requirements and the date deadlines and all of that stuff is on the site. That like you'll dig into all of that there. Okay. Thank you
Yes.
so much for
Yep.
that. I really appreciate it.
Okay, and we're running a little long on time with a lot of topics, so I'm wondering, Suzanne, if you want to address these last two briefly, questions about the Smithsonian and then other offsite events.
Yeah, so the Smithsonian, I know there are discussions on, collaborating with them. I don't know that we have finalized or come to any type of like what's being planned for those locations, but they are in discussion. And then the next one, historical mini official. So the university alumni events, they do come, if they're off-site, AGU is not involved in those, and we do not put them in our program. If they go through our ancillary form and they use the contracted space that we have, then we can put them in the program. But if they go off-site, they're on their own. We don't get involved in any of the details.
All right. Well, thanks for this topic. And like I said, every month, we're going to talk about this AGU 24 leading up to it, including milestones, and always reach out using that email address with any specific questions. So why don't we pull back up the slide so we can go to the next topic. So Lexi and I think Liz are both here. So I'll turn it
Yes.
over to you.
That's fabulous. Hi, everybody. I'm going to start us off and then I'll turn it over to Liz Landau, whom many of you know. For those who don't know me, I'm the VP of Science Policy and Government Relations for AGU. And with this, we're going to be talking about a specific event that we did that is really about the collaboration between our policy work and our community science work. And this is not the only thing that we've done together, but it was the latest example. It was really, really intriguing and interesting. So we wanted to talk to you about it. Next slide. Perfect. So just a reminder, I'm sure you have all seen this a million times, but I just wanted to highlight this because this kind of integration of policy and community science, and in particular, working with the community science leaders that we brought back to DC for a day, is very much in service of each one of these strategic goals if you look at them closely. And it's just sort of an example of how the work that we do, even in areas that may not be sort of immediately obvious, are really intended to drive forward the idea of our science collectively making a big difference in the world. Next slide, please. One of the things you'll see here, these are a couple of pictures from the event itself. If you can read this, the fine print, Liz will tell you a little bit more about the participants that we brought back. There were 6 leaders, but we brought them to the Hill, and these are pictures of them actually meeting with their legislators and their staff. And the kind of specific goals that we were advancing with this work It's really about representing the perspectives of the broader society, broader, science society, to inform policies and regulation, but specifically related to climate and resilience and sustainability, and then ensuring that science informs decision-making, and in this case, sort of at the local level within the United States. Next slide. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Liz to talk about the event itself.
Great. Thanks so much, Lexi. Hi, everyone. Good to see you all. Thanks for your attention. So this particular event was really bringing together the skills of different AGU departments to help meet our overall goals, as Lexi said. And so we have within our science policy department, we do congressional visits day events multiple times a year. And generally those are bringing in scientists to talk about their science and also key legislation with their policymakers. And so we combined our skills and resources with those of the Thriving Earth Exchange, who work with these community leaders. And the community leaders are people who represent communities that have challenges and are connected through the Thriving Earth Exchange program to scientists who are able to help them solve those problems in various ways. And so each of these community leaders who came in is someone who had been helped and positively impacted by science, and it's something that had helped their community locally. And so they were able to tell those stories to these policymakers and share that impact that they had, which is a really compelling story to share with policymakers about the value of science and why they should be supporting science, supporting federal science funding, and supporting research in their districts. So you can see the teams here also included our marketing team at AGU. And that's because we wanted to ensure that we were able to showcase the great work that this group was doing and the value of science overall. And so we are putting out materials, and we did put out materials on the day about the experience and what this was like. And as you can see, our goals here were really showcasing AGU as a home for solution science, for science that is able to actually help these communities on the ground regularly. Also have non-advocates advocating for science, which is incredibly valuable to showcase the breadth of how science is able to contribute to various communities and how important it is to these communities. So provides another advocate, another avenue for the value of science to policymakers. And also part of what they were requesting was strong funding for science in the fiscal year 2025, which is currently being negotiated. And so it's an important time for us to be talking about how this is something where we can contribute funds and actually get more back through that. And so this group got a day of training with us to make sure that they're prepared for their visits. And then we guided them throughout the day to all of their visits and help make this seamless and easy enough for them. I am going to put in the chat a blog post that I wrote about this experience that we had, and we do hope to have more material coming out soon as well. Next slide, please. So there are both short and long-term impacts, and these impacts are for the individuals who take part in this event, but they're also for the communities and the policymakers. And I will say, one example of longer term impact that we're able to have is that some of these community leaders, in coming out and having these conversations with us and with staff on both Congress and the administration, they learned that they can ask their members of Congress for help with federal grants that will help their local communities. And this was something that a lot of them did not know and found incredibly valuable and helpful. And that's something that they're taking back to their communities, and they're going to be able to actually receive more help and benefit because of that. So just one example of something that is a longer term benefit that they're getting out of this. These community leaders learned valuable skills, and they were able to represent a number of communities across the United States. And over time, they're actually going back and teaching others about what they have learned as well. We heard that, I actually believe it was Melissa Zamora, who's in this photo here, who's from Texas. She went back, she's part of an Indigenous community, and she is actually teaching everyone in that community how to also talk to their policymakers, because she said she honestly didn't realize this was an option before, didn't realize she could do this. And so AGU has empowered her to do this, and now it's empowered her to teach her entire community to do this as well. And so they are going to be able to long-term be able to build relationships with policymakers. Next slide, please. Our last slide is just some quotes from the participants, which I'll let you read. They found this experience incredibly beneficial and rewarding. They absolutely wanted to come back and do this again. We also want to do this again and hope to make this a yearly occurrence. The only negatives we heard from the survey that we sent to the participants were that they wish the event was longer and that DC was too hot, which unfortunately we can't do anything about. But we wanted to share this with you all because we thought this was a great example of how AGU is working across all of its departments to try and further our goals. And we hope that you all are excited about these types of events that we're able to put on. So thank you. I think Lexi and I are happy to answer any questions if there are any, or if there is no time to move on and we can check the chat. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Liz and Lexi. Really important work that you're doing. And any questions from folks here? And of course, you can always reach out to us later.
Can
All right.
I just add a comment?
Yeah.
I just want to thank the staff for taking this on. It was a small number of people, but I got to spend a little time with them at the beginning of their day. And they were nervous and they were anxious. They were committed to their message and what they were going to be able to tell people. But, you know, think about it. You saw people here who came from Texas, who came from Mississippi. They didn't necessarily, they couldn't count on an open ear, an open mind in the people they visited with. And I have to say that the interaction between them and our staff was just so reassuring, and it gave them the confidence they needed to talk about the challenges they face, the opportunities they have, in a way that I don't think they could have on their own. And so I just want to recognize the team. Lexi and Liz are just two of them. That a lot of people were involved, and I know they found it extremely rewarding, but the difference that they made, that combination, walking into a congressional or Senate office, was just incredibly dynamic. So thank you guys for that.
Thanks, everyone. Why don't we move to the next? All right, student and early career engagement survey results. We have Dana again with us. As you remember, after our meeting last month, we were able to quickly turn around a survey. And we have some results, and thanks for folks. I think we've got about half of the sections represented in the survey. And Dana, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me here again. A bit of background in case you missed last month's meeting. One of the goals of the Early Career Council representatives as a group is to increase our interactions with students and early career section representatives in order to get a broader perspective on the needs and concerns of AGU's early career members more broadly, and to see where we might be able to work together on shared initiatives. So to that end, we sent out a brief survey to see which section representatives were already engaged with us in our Slack group and our Circle group, and to find out what their roles are within their sections. So at last month's call, I presented those results, and there was interest from section leaders in sending out a similar poll to get a sense of numbers in terms of how many student and section reps were in their sections and how involved they were, partially to kind of share examples with each other and see where there might be gaps we can help fill. So in these slides, I'll just be going through those results. And as Rosa mentioned, we had 14 sections represented in the survey. And from these graphs, you can see about half of the sections that responded had one student and one early career representative per section. And then the other half of respondents had a mixture ranging from kind of co-representatives to small committees. So from 2 all the way up to 25 student or early career representatives in their section. And next slide, please. So we also wanted to get a sense of what kind of activities the student and early career representatives organized related to AGU's annual conference, because we heard that that's a big area of engagement for them. And 12 of the sections said that their representatives worked on social and networking events, such as luncheons, receptions, and mixers, or organizing trivia and bingo nights, as well as informal meetups at pods throughout the meeting. 3 sections had representatives that organized panels or town halls. 2 sections organized mentoring and or mixers with senior scientists. And then there were a few unique responses that I really liked. One of the sections has early career members organize short science pitch competitions with prizes that go towards making those science ideas realities. One of the sections has members on their OSPA committee. The early career members also organize sessions at their AGU meeting and assist with pre-meeting social media posts and newsletters. And then an idea was brought up for the potential of a shared booth in the exhibit hall with other sections. And that's something that we're kind of exploring with the early career group as well. Next slide, please. We also know that some sections have their early career representatives involved in efforts outside of the annual meeting. So we wanted to hear what those were. 5 of the sections have their early career members manage their websites and social media presence. 3 sections have their representatives organize seminar series with the OSPA winners and or other early career speakers to give them that opportunity to present their work. 3 sections organize virtual mentoring or networking and engagement with other sections. And 2 sections work on creating online resources for their early career members. One of the sections also operates a list for opportunities to review relevant papers, which I thought was a really nice idea. And most of the sections talked about their representatives attending their leadership and committee meetings and participating in related discussions and decisions. And on the next slide, we'll give you those numbers. So 10 of the 14 sections that responded said their early career and student representatives attend all of their leadership meetings, which is great. 2 of them have representatives that attend sometimes, and then 2 sections said none or rarely. And then we also asked for kind of open-ended feedback in terms of their student and early career representatives' involvement. And one section leader said that they were inspired by the last section support call, and they'll be inviting their early career representative to start attending section leadership meetings and section support calls, which is great. Another section said that their student and EC reps are awesome, and they think their executive committee is largely driven by EC support. One section said that this group was their top priority, but it's somewhat challenging to keep them very happy. And then one section said that their student and early career representatives are fully engaged in all of their early career decisions. So lots of great feedback. And that is all I have for that short survey result. So if anyone has questions or comments, I think we maybe have a little bit of time for discussion.
Thanks, Dana. Any comments, questions, anything surprise you? Anything spur any other ideas in terms of your section's interaction or outreach to student early career folks? Not seeing anything in the chat.
And I'll just add that we are planning on organizing another one of our quarterly calls with the student and early career section leaders. And we're thinking the topic might be focused on assisting in preparation for AGU events. And that would be a great opportunity for sections that do co-organize things to meet and kind of work on that and see what questions might arise.
Great. Thanks, Dana. And we can continue having these types of conversations in this space. And I know we have a few more, as I'm looking around the virtual room here, Student Early Career Council reps are also on this call. So thanks to all of you for all you're doing. And I guess I'll leave it at that. Oh, and here's a question from Rachel. Have you succeeded in contacting other sections, early career folks?
We did hear from the seismology early career and student reps, which is great. So they're added in now to our Slack and Circle groups. I think there are still a number that we haven't heard from. So again, if you are a section leader on this call, please reach out to your section reps and see if they're already in our Circle and Slack group or not. And if not, reach out to myself or Rosa or Liz, anyone, and we'll try to get you added to those groups. Or Pranoti, if she's here too, yeah.
Another from Janet. Will we hear how early career reps would like us to better engage them through section activity?
Yeah, so I talked about that a little bit last time. Some of the reps, one of the bigger issues that came up was wanting more interaction with the other student and early career section leaders. So we're hoping that by organizing these kind of quarterly calls throughout the year will help facilitate that. Some of them also wanted to be more involved in leadership meetings and discussions, and kind of get a sense of where funding for early career opportunities comes from and how that's decided upon. And it sounds like, at least from the sections that responded, a lot of them are already involved in their leadership committees. So maybe that's an issue with the sections that we haven't heard from. But we'll definitely continue to raise additional concerns as they come up.
Okay. Thanks so much, Dana. And thanks for everyone again who contributed to the survey. It was a quick turnaround, but it's great we were able to kind of keep the conversation going.
Yeah, definitely.
And we'll continue. Yeah. All right. Why don't we go to we've got about 15 minutes left. So why don't we turn it over to Matt to talk about kind of the intersection and community between sections and pubs. Matt.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here today. I'm going to share slides mostly from what was discussed at the last council meeting, but I'll try to breeze through them since we're limited in time. And I know some of you have seen them already, but this is a little bit different group. And as mentioned, there's even some early career members of sections here. I guess next slide. I'll talk to you a little bit about some of the ideas I had. I want to say the framing of the conversation at the council meeting was very much how can sections engage with our publications, and it was a little bit about how they can shape what's happening at publications and create the community around our publications, which is so important to our journals, our books, and whatnot. But I would like the conversation here to be the flip side of that, which is what can our publications do for sections, or how can we help with anything that you're working on? Okay, so the premise of this is we've got 25 sections and 24 journals. There's not a one-to-one matchup. There's many of our journals are cut across sections, and many sections have more than one journal that they're interested in. We have several book series. We have many conferences and all sorts of programs across AGU. And they all work because they're driven by members and people who are deeply invested in the scientific research happening within our community. So my question was, how can we strengthen that community? Here I was going to go through some examples from the hydrology section, paleo section, geohealth, and biogeosciences as recent things that have been happening, collaborations across sections and journals. But don't take this to mean that there's not something that could happen with books or a preprint server or anything like that. Next slide. And in fact, again, here's the question: how can AGU publications help your section? And here's just some ideas to spur conversation. What kinds of early career trainings or connections to journals would you like? We've got a co-reviewer program. I'll just take a moment to put information about that in the chat here. Sorry, one second. Several of our journals are working on early career reviewer editorial boards. We have editorials and commentaries available to leadership in your section if you want a platform for having certain discussions. We love to do special collections. We'd love to do them with sections on whatever topic you think is most relevant currently, and those collections can happen across our journals and even with partner journals outside of AGU as well. And we have some specialized journals, which I'd like to make sure you're aware of, including Perspectives of Earth and Space Scientists, which is started as a venue for people like on the fellows end of the career spectrum to share experiences, but is now turned into a place for sharing all sorts of like even news items coming out of meetings and things like that. Things that sometimes EOS is not focusing on so much anymore can be included in this venue. And then our Community Science Exchange and the Community Science Journal, which are very much focused on the connection of the scientific research to actual local communities on the ground and how the science benefits them. Next slide. Okay, so going through these examples, the hydrology section is always the one that springs to mind, and John is here and has heard this slide already, but you know, water resources research, our journal has always had a very, very strong connection to the hydrology section. They really helped even recently with the transition to open access, helping to drive the decision or that AGU would take the decision about when that journal would go to open access, and to help frame through town halls and conducting surveys, etc., the question of how we would go about it and what things we needed to consider. And then again, assisting with promoting that the transition was happening so that it would go smoothly and members would not be surprised the day the journals became fully open access. Next slide. And then some of these examples were shared with me with permission from people who provided the slide. So this slide came to me from Annie Temilovich, who's an early career researcher who's part of the Paleo group. I don't know if Annie's here. And they came to AGU Publications and the editor-in-chief of the Paleo Journal with an idea. And they said, hey, look, we really want to review papers and nobody's coming to us. And we know there's a whole bunch of people who are further along in their career who are just totally inundated with invitations to review. And we think that the section could help collect names and put them in a database for the editor-in-chief and the editors to assess whether those people could become reviewers. And they've started that, and it's early days, so I don't have the feedback, but they were really, really excited that AGU was able to create this form and they were able to promote it so that people could sign up to become reviewers. So it was a pretty simple one, and again, very much driven by this early career researcher working group. Next. Oh, I said all that. Next one. So for JGR Biogeosciences, it was the journal was started shortly after the Biogeosciences section. In the early days of the section, they were already talking about starting a journal. So again, there's this very obvious one-to-one connection there. The section makes sure to share research coming out of the journal on the section website. Next slide. And they've got with this anniversary of the section, they've got all these initiatives where they're sort of promoting what's happening in the section. And this is one where the editor really sort of recently reached out and said we need to like freshly reconnect. The two kind of had been drifting and had separate leadership that weren't necessarily conferring on a regular basis. Next slide. And then this example is from GeoHealth. So Helen Nguyen provided me these slides. Next. And they're starting an early career reviewer board. BioGeo is also doing something with early career reviewer board. And they've identified this first cohort. Next slide. And it's really done with in concert with the section and the journal. So they have identified these sort of tasks that the early career reviewers will do, the review board will do. They'll be acting as reviewers. They could occasionally be assigned as an AE, and they really want to make sure that this comes with not just them doing work for the journal, but there's training and opportunities for them. So let me see if this is the next slide. So they're doing that, and they're actually going to have workshops at our annual meeting in December, and they're working on jointly, the section and the editor-in-chief are working on finding funding to provide more training opportunities for this review board. Next. Just as a reminder, we've got editors-in-chief searches this year. They're listed there, and more coming up. And we always need members of sections to serve on these search committees. Your in-depth scientific expertise is greatly needed. And even if anybody's interested this year for one of these, one of the general journals that spans everything, we actually do have a need for another committee member. So if anybody is interested, let me know. Next slide. And we can just go right into discussion. This was provided to the council for their feedback on any ideas people might have. Feel free to use that QR code if you would like to input any ideas. Otherwise, we can just go right into discussing. Like I said, I would be very interested in how our journals, our books, our preprint server, or our special collections could help you in any way with what you're doing over the course of next year.
Thanks, Matt. And John, I see you have a couple of comments. I'm wondering if you want to kick us off on a quick discussion, given some of your comments.
Sure. Yeah, it's here at WaterSciCon, people are coming up to me, early career people, saying, how do I get involved? And one of the first things that comes up is start to be a reviewer, because it gives them a feel for the whole process of being part of the publication team, and also it makes great connections. And so I think it's a really important opportunity. And I'm trying to think about how to put a little bit of a carrot out there. And so just to make sure that they feel invited, first and foremost, really, and then maybe later that there's some sort of benefit to being a reviewer. And I was thinking that, the first review, that we could give them a little bit of a bonus, like cut their publication price in half, which for early career people can be really a big deal, or something like that. But anyway, I just think that it was interesting to me how people were really not aware. They thought they just didn't understand how to get engaged that way. And I don't think we really have a good process for this transparent about how people can become reviewers.
Yeah. Oh, and I didn't really go in depth on the co-reviewer program, John, but let me just state that here, that we noticed a couple of years ago that we know it's a practice that, say, John, if you receive a review request, you may, with some of your students, sit down and read the paper and say, what do you think of this paper? Give me feedback, and I'm going to, incorporate some of your feedback into the review I send in. So we started giving people just the opportunity to list anyone who did co-review with them, and they then get into our database, and they will be invited to sessions we're doing at the annual meeting and webinars and such that are geared to training for people who are new to reviewing. And we certainly are. I think there's another survey in order soon, looking for ways to honor peer reviewers, short of cutting them each a check, which is maybe desirable, but probably pretty difficult for us to do. But really trying to think about, again, how does it interact with membership? How does it interact with all the different things that people do? Maybe if you've reviewed enough papers, we can, say that qualifies you for something. And in particular with the fees, that's one that we might be able to consider. But a lot of people, we actually, our policy is we'll waive the fee if you don't have money for it, right? And also a lot of people have institutional arrangements that mean those fees are paid. So it could be there's some other thing at AGU that we would say you can get this, and that's a better thing that would help them. But definitely need a survey.
Well, Matt, if you wrote something I could put in my newsletter that said, hey, this is how you can become a reviewer, then that'd be really helpful.
Oh, happy to.
Great. Any other comments or questions on this? All right. Well, we've got about 4 minutes left. And I'm going to ask, as you all are thinking about possibly some parting questions or comments on any topic. Josh, do you want to put into the chat again the email address that I keep touting if you need to reach us for section leader help? That's how you can get us. There we go, agu-sectionhelp@agu.org. And also my usual pitch, I would say about 80% of the topics on these monthly calls come from you guys. So please continue to reach out to me and let me know what topics you'd like us to talk about. Again, this meeting is meant for kind of your operational day-to-day life as a section leader and your executive committee. So we want to bring people to the table to talk to you about what you want to hear about, where you need support, but also make space for you all to talk to each other as section leaders and learn from each other. So with that, oh, we have something from Dwight. I'm trying to connect with someone in the ocean sciences section. Anyone from that section here? Is there a...
That would be me.
Oh, there's Janet. Yeah.
So
Hi, Janet. Could you drop your email in the chat?
yes, okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
That's what this is for. All right. Anything else, anyone? Janice or Amber, do you have any ending? All right. Well, then we will let you go. But please get in touch. We'll see you next month. And again, let me know what topics you want to hear about. We will for sure be talking again about the annual meeting and about price transparency or cost transparency and probably a few other things. So we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.